Have you ever trusted someone, really trusted them, only to realize later they never deserved it? It hits hard, doesn't it? But here's the truth. Not everyone who smiles at you is safe. Some people wear loyalty like a costume. Beneath it, manipulation, jealousy, control. And if we're not careful, we end up handing them the keys to our peace of mind. But not anymore. In today's video, we're going to expose 9 types of people who don't deserve your trust or your respect, even if they've been in your life for years. This isn't about being cold or cruel. It's about being clear. Stoicism teaches us you have power over your mind, not outside events. And part of that power is choosing who gets to stand beside you. So, if you're ready to protect your inner peace and surround yourself with people who truly deserve a seat at your table, you're in the right place. Hit subscribe, ring that little bell, and let's take this journey together. Because once you recognize these signs, you'll never look at your relationships the same way again. Let's get started. Number 1. The manipulative individual. The first kind of person you should never trust is the manipulative individual. They don't always look like villains. In fact, they're often the ones who smile the widest, ask all the right questions, and offer a shoulder to lean on at first. But behind their carefully constructed facade is a mind that's always calculating. Their kindness isn't a gift. It's a currency they use to buy control. Like a puppeteer, they gently pull the strings, turning your emotions into their personal playground. One moment, they're lifting you up with praise, and the next, they're subtly tearing down your confidence. Over time, you begin to question your own judgment, second-guess your feelings, and even apologize for things you didn't do. That's not love. That's not friendship. That's manipulation. I've seen this happen to someone close to me, a colleague who entered a relationship with someone who seemed endlessly supportive. At first, he felt lucky. She remembered every detail, sent encouraging messages, showed up unexpectedly with coffee and compliments. But months in, those same behaviors became suffocating. The support turned into surveillance. She'd twist his words, bring up private things he'd shared in moments of trust, and use them to make him feel guilty. He started shrinking in his own life, filtering everything he did through her reactions. That's the silent erosion of identity manipulators cause. They don't explode. They dissolve you piece by piece. Stoicism teaches us that while we cannot control others, we can and must control our response. And the first step is awareness. Recognizing manipulation doesn't require a dramatic confrontation. It begins with observing the small things. How often you feel the need to explain yourself. How often you feel confused or guilty after speaking with someone. How much of your energy goes into managing their reactions instead of living your truth. These are the emotional red flags that your internal compass is picking up on, even if your mind hasn't caught up yet. The manipulator thrives in ambiguity. They twist intentions, blur boundaries, and rewrite history to suit their narrative. You'll hear them speak poorly of others under the guise of concern or honesty, but take note, because one day they'll use that same tone to tear you down when you're not in the room. Their tactics, gaslighting, guilt-tripping, victim-playing, are all designed to keep you disoriented and compliant. It's psychological warfare disguised as affection. The Stoics remind us that clarity is strength. Like Marcus Aurelius said, if it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. To navigate the storm of manipulation, you must become your own lighthouse. Set boundaries like stone. Don't share vulnerable parts of yourself with someone who's proven they'll use them against you. Speak plainly, act with intention, and when necessary, walk away. Not to punish them, but to protect yourself. This is not about being unforgiving. It's about not handing over the keys to your peace of mind. The manipulative individual doesn't deserve your trust. because trust is sacred. It's something you build with those who want to see you grow, not shrink. And once you reclaim that space, once you refuse to be pulled by invisible strings, you'll realize just how powerful your presence can be when it's no longer shaped by someone else's control. 2. The perpetual critic. There's a certain kind of person who never seems to see the good in anything or anyone. You could share an achievement you're proud of, a dream you've been working toward, or even something as small as a new haircut, and somehow they'll find a way to twist it, to poke holes in it, to make you feel like you've fallen short. These are the perpetual critics. Their words aren't offered to help or build. They're delivered like quiet jabs, subtle but sharp, wearing down your confidence over time. And the most dangerous thing, if you're not careful, you begin to internalize their voice, mistaking their harsh opinions for truth. I remember someone I once worked with, an older colleague, respected in the company, but with a tendency to undercut others with passive-aggressive remarks. No matter what idea you brought to the table, it wasn't good enough. If a younger team member spoke up, she'd raise an eyebrow or mention how things were done better in her day. At first, I thought maybe it was just high standards, but over time I realized it was something deeper. Her need to criticize wasn't about improvement, it was about control. It was about preserving a sense of superiority in a world she felt increasingly disconnected from. And that's often the root of constant criticism: fear, insecurity, and a sense of lost relevance. People who carry pain they've never processed often transfer it onto others. They project disappointment in themselves by diminishing your growth. But Stoic wisdom reminds us we are not obligated to accept every opinion handed to us. Epictetus taught that it's not things that disturb us, but our judgments about them. In other words, it's not the critic's voice that causes the damage. It's whether or not we let that voice define our worth. That's where boundaries come in. Not aggressive confrontational walls, but quiet, firm lines that protect your peace. Listen to the criticism, sure, but weigh it with discernment. Ask, is this helping me grow, or is it simply draining me? If the answer is the latter, then it's time to stop giving that voice authority in your life. You don't owe anyone the power to dim your inner light just because they haven't found theirs. Stoicism doesn't ask you to be cold or closed off. It asks you to be anchored. And in the storm of constant criticism, anchoring yourself in your own clarity, purpose, and values is what keeps your soul intact. You can't change the wind, but you can adjust your sails. And sometimes that means sailing away from voices that only seek to tear you down. 3. The gossip. The third kind of person you should never give your trust to is the gossip monger, the one who always seems to carry other people's secrets like badges of honor, passing them from ear to ear without ever asking whether they were theirs to tell. On the surface, their conversations might feel exciting, even bonding. They speak with wide eyes and lowered voices, creating the illusion of closeness. But look closer, and you'll see something darker, a pattern of betrayal dressed up as entertainment. Gossip isn't just idle talk. It's a weapon disguised as connection. And more often than not, the one who brings you stories about others is also taking your stories to someone else. I saw this unfold in a neighborhood I used to live in. There was a woman who was at the center of every community event, always smiling, always talking. If someone's child got in trouble at school, she knew. If a couple was having a rough patch, she whispered it across fences before the sun even rose. One afternoon, I made the mistake of confiding in her, nothing dramatic, just a small personal struggle I was going through. Within days, I heard fragments of my own story bouncing back to me from others' mouths, distorted, embellished, and clearly passed around like party favors. I felt exposed, embarrassed, and above all, foolish for trusting someone whose loyalty was just an illusion. People like this don't gossip because they're cruel by nature. They gossip because they're insecure. Sharing stories gives them a fleeting sense of power. It fills the silence in their lives with the noise of other people's drama. But behind that behavior is often a need for validation, a fear of being irrelevant, or an avoidance of their own unresolved issues. Gossip lets them feel important without having to be vulnerable themselves. Stoic philosophy offers us a compass in these moments. Epictetus taught that we should never speak about others in a way we wouldn't speak to them directly. That's not just about politeness, it's about honor, and it's also a warning. When you surround yourself with people who casually tarnish others' reputations, you invite that same energy into your own life. Gossip is never one-directional, it always loops back. The solution isn't confrontation or conflict, it's distance and discipline. When gossip starts, redirect the conversation. If that doesn't work, excuse yourself. Guard your own words closely, and more importantly, don't give your trust to someone who trades in secrets like currency. Your personal life, your struggles, your successes, those deserve safe hands, not public discussion. The Stoic way is to protect your peace not only by what you consume, but also by what you allow others to bring into your mental space. Gossip wastes precious energy, damages relationships, and ultimately says more about the speaker than the subject. Don't be part of the echo chamber. Be the one who chooses silence over slander, clarity over chaos. That's not just wisdom, it's self-respect. If you found these insights valuable, let me know by commenting yes below. Your thoughts matter, and I'd love to hear from you. Number 4, the fair weather friend. The fourth type of person who does not deserve your trust is the fair weather friend, the one who only walks beside you when the sun is shining. These individuals are easy to like. They show up to your victories, laugh loudly at your jokes, toast to your accomplishments, and stand close when everything in your life seems to be moving upward. But the moment hardship arrives, when you're facing illness, failure, grief, or personal struggle, they fade into silence. No texts, no calls, no presents. Their loyalty, you realize, was only ever tied to your light, not your darkness. The danger of fair weather friends is that they often appear indistinguishable from real ones when life is good. They're warm, charismatic, even generous. But they don't stick around when your joy becomes quiet or when your life turns complicated. And that absence speaks volumes. Their friendship is transactional, measured by how comfortable or entertaining your life is for them to be around. The moment you need more than a smile or small talk, they retreat. It's not that they're cruel, it's that they lack the depth to walk through difficulty with anyone, even people they claim to care about. One of the clearest public examples of this dynamic can be seen in the life of Robin Williams. At the height of his fame, he was surrounded by people, adored by millions, and constantly in demand. His brilliance, generosity, and warmth drew others like a magnet. But as his personal struggles deepened, battling depression, addiction, and eventually severe illness, many of those who once basked in his glow were no longer around. His closest circle grew smaller, quieter. The world loved his laughter but didn't always know what to do with his pain. His story isn't unique. It's a reflection of how society often celebrates people when they're winning, but vanishes when those same people need compassion the most. Psychologically, fair weather friends often carry an avoidance of discomfort. Supporting someone through pain demands emotional maturity, empathy, and an ability to sit with the uncomfortable, qualities they haven't cultivated. So instead of leaning in, they distance themselves. They convince themselves that giving space is kindness, but it's really about self-preservation. Stoicism teaches us to build our strength inward, to not be overly dependent on anyone for our emotional stability. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "It is in our power to live a life of virtue regardless of the conditions we find ourselves in." That means finding peace not in the presence of others, but in the steadiness of our own character. Fair weather friends remind us of the importance of this. They teach us, painfully, that not every smile is a sign of loyalty, and they challenge us to be more discerning. It's not wrong to enjoy the presence of these people in moments of celebration, but it is dangerous to hand them the keys to your deeper self. Save that for the ones who stay when the light dims, who show up not with answers but with quiet support. Those are the friends who earn their place in your life, not through charm, but through constancy. And that, the Stoics would say, is the foundation of trust. Number 5, the narcissist. Have you ever known someone who made you feel special until you needed them to care about you just as much as you cared about them? Someone who shines brightly in every room, yet somehow leaves you feeling dimmer the longer you're around them. That's often your first encounter with a narcissist. At first it's subtle. They seem confident, articulate, even magnetic. They know exactly how to make you feel seen until they don't, because their attention is never truly about you. It's about how you make them feel. They're not interested in connection. They're interested in control, admiration, and affirmation. And the moment your presence stops serving their needs, the warmth disappears. What makes narcissists so complex is their ability to mirror emotions without actually feeling them. They can mimic empathy, pretend to listen, even offer comfort, so long as it doesn't cost them anything. But when you need real support, when you're no longer just an audience for their performance, their indifference becomes undeniable. Every conversation shifts back to them. Every success you share becomes a trigger for their insecurity. And every time you express a need, it's either ignored or turned into a reason to question your worth. Psychologically, this behavior isn't just self-centered, it's emotionally extractive. Narcissists don't just want attention, they depend on it to maintain their inflated self-image. They collect people the way some collect trophies, proof of their importance, but not something they care to protect. Over time, being around someone like this doesn't just exhaust you, it empties you. You begin to feel like a reflection instead of a person. That's the moment you need to step back. This is where Stoic philosophy becomes your anchor. Epictetus said, "Know first who you are, and then adorn yourself accordingly." That wisdom reminds us that we must never let another person's lack of empathy dictate our sense of value. With narcissists, you cannot win their affection by giving more. You cannot earn respect from someone who only sees others as tools for validation. But you can draw a line. You can choose not to participate in their endless loop of self-absorption. You can protect your peace by refusing to shrink for the sake of their ego. Detachment, in this case, is not cruelty, it's clarity. The narcissist will rarely change, but you don't have to be pulled into their orbit. And when you walk away, not in anger, but in self-respect, you reclaim something far more valuable than their approval, your inner freedom. 6. The flatterer. Have you ever had someone compliment you so effortlessly, so often, that it felt almost too good to be true? The kind of person who always knows just what to say to make you feel admired, respected, even special. At first, it feels like a gift, finally, someone who sees your worth. But over time, something starts to feel off. Their praise, while constant, lacks depth. It's a little too rehearsed, too perfectly timed. You begin to notice that their compliments always show up right before they ask for something, or when they need you to be on their side. That's when it hits you. This isn't appreciation, it's strategy. And the person you're dealing with isn't a genuine admirer, but a skilled flatterer. A striking example of this dynamic played out during the early years of Hollywood. There was a well-known actor who rose to stardom not just through talent, but through the carefully crafted relationships he built with powerful directors and producers. He had a gift, not just for acting, but for flattery. He would charm his way into roles, praise everyone around him lavishly, always knowing who to compliment and when. But when some of those same people fell from influence, he vanished from their lives without a second glance. His praise was never about connection. It was a currency, a tool. And for a long time, it worked. But eventually, people saw through the pattern. His career declined, not because of a lack of skill, but because those around him realized his admiration had never been real. It was always a transaction. This is the psychological profile of a flatterer. They are not necessarily cruel, but they are calculated. They understand that validation is powerful, that people are drawn to those who make them feel seen. But rather than offering praise from a place of sincerity, they offer it as bait. And if you're not careful, you begin to crave their approval, shaping your decisions around keeping their admiration alive. That's how they gain control. Stoic philosophy is a powerful antidote to this trap. The Stoics teach us to build our self-worth not on the shifting winds of external praise, but on the solid ground of internal virtue. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Receive without pride, let go without attachment." That includes compliments. We can accept them with gratitude, but we must never depend on them. Flattery can cloud judgment, making us more vulnerable to manipulation and less attuned to truth. By keeping our ego in check, we gain clarity, and that clarity helps us see through the veneer of false admiration. Detachment, in this case, is not cruelty, it's clarity. The narcissist will rarely change, but you don't have to be pulled into their orbit. And when you walk away, not in anger, but in self-respect, you reclaim something far more valuable than their approval, your inner freedom. 7. The envious. There's a certain discomfort that settles in the air when you're surrounded by someone who doesn't celebrate your growth, but masks their resentment with a polite smile. Envy rarely presents itself in obvious ways. It doesn't scream or lash out. It whispers. It hides beneath carefully worded praise, disguised as support. The envious person appears to be a friend, even a fan, but beneath that surface lies quiet unrest. Every time you take a step forward, they feel as if they've taken one back. And because their pride won't allow them to express it directly, their reactions become passive, controlled, and deeply calculated. Envy is one of the most corrosive traits because it often goes undetected until damage is done. You might notice that your accomplishments are met with forced smiles, lukewarm congratulations, or immediate comparisons. There's always a twist, a subtle redirection of attention, a half-hearted compliment, followed by a personal anecdote that puts them back in the spotlight. It's not always what they say, but how they say it. And more importantly, how you feel after hearing it. You may walk away questioning whether your success is worth sharing at all. The envious mind is often filled with unspoken battles. These individuals measure their worth through constant comparison. Your success becomes their discomfort. Your growth becomes their insecurity. This isn't about you. It never was. It's a reflection of their own dissatisfaction, a signal of their internal war with inadequacy. And unless they confront that, they'll continue projecting it onto anyone who dares to move forward. This is where Stoic philosophy offers a vital perspective. A Stoic doesn't look outward for validation or identity. They stay anchored in their purpose, unaffected by the emotional turbulence of others. Envy, by Stoic standards, is not an external problem to be solved. It is a storm you learn to walk through without being swept away. Marcus Aurelius wrote about the strength of holding your inner fortress firm, unmoved by either praise or resentment. When dealing with envious individuals, it's not about confrontation or changing them. It's about clarity, recognizing their behavior for what it is, not an assessment of your worth, but a mirror of their struggle. You protect your peace by staying grounded in your values and by being mindful of what you share and with whom. Let your success speak softly, but carry the weight of authenticity. And never let someone's silent bitterness convince you to dim the very light you've worked so hard to ignite. 8. The victim. There is a certain heaviness that surrounds those who always see themselves as victims of life. No matter the situation, they find a way to position themselves at the mercy of others, of fate, of the world. They live in a cycle of helplessness, repeating the same stories of mistreatment, misfortune, and missed opportunities, as if they have no role in their own lives beyond enduring suffering. At first, your instinct may be compassion. After all, empathy is human. But over time, their mindset becomes draining. Every conversation circles back to how life has wronged them. Every suggestion is met with a reason why it won't work. Their sense of identity is so wrapped in victimhood that they resist any attempt to climb out of it, because doing so would mean accepting that they have always had the power to choose differently, and that's a truth many aren't ready to face. Psychologically, this behavior is rooted in avoidance. Avoidance of responsibility, of failure, of discomfort. It's easier to blame than to change. Yet this mindset doesn't just hurt them, it starts pulling others in. You may try to help, to support, to rescue, but helping someone who refuses to help themselves often leads to emotional exhaustion. You're left questioning your own strength, your own resolve, as you're slowly drawn into their hopelessness. This is when you must turn to the wisdom of the Stoics. Stoicism reminds us again and again that we are not victims of circumstance, we are stewards of our perception and our response. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." A person who clings to victimhood rejects this truth. They place all their power outside themselves, and in doing so, they give up the very thing the Stoics held most sacred: autonomy of the soul. Epictetus was born into slavery, yet he taught that no one could enslave his mind. That's the kind of inner freedom Stoicism points us toward, one that isn't dependent on external fairness, but on internal clarity. When you are dealing with someone who always sees themselves as powerless, your role isn't to carry them, but to stay grounded in your own direction. You can offer perspective, encouragement, and space, but never at the cost of your own peace. When dealing with envious individuals, it's not about confrontation or changing them. It's about clarity, recognizing their behavior for what it is, not an assessment of your worth, but a mirror of their struggle. You protect your peace by staying grounded in your values and by being mindful of what you share and with whom. Let your success speak softly, but carry the weight of authenticity. And never let someone's silent bitterness convince you to dim the very light you've worked so hard to ignite. 9. The judgmental. There's a particular discomfort that creeps in when you're around someone who constantly evaluates others with a cold, unflinching gaze, as if life were their personal courtroom and everyone else was on trial. The judgmental person sees the world not as it is, but as it should be, according to their rigid and narrow standards. They are quick to label, slow to listen, and often act as though their opinion is the final verdict on someone's worth. They don't seek understanding. They seek confirmation of their own superiority. And in doing so, they shut down conversation, growth, and genuine human connection. I witnessed this at a local event where people were invited to share stories of resilience. A woman spoke about overcoming personal loss and years of financial hardship with remarkable honesty and strength. The room was still, until a man interrupted to criticize her past decisions, speaking as if he were delivering moral judgment from a pedestal. He didn't ask questions or offer insight. He passed a sentence, and you could feel the shift in the room, from inspiration to silence, from unity to distance. Stoic philosophy offers an important lens here. The Stoics never encouraged moral blindness. They believed in discernment. But they taught that judgment should be guided by humility, not ego. Marcus Aurelius warned against the temptation to judge harshly, reminding us that our own flaws are never far from the ones we criticize. When you wake up in the morning, he wrote, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly, but none of them can harm me. In this, we are reminded that others' judgments don't define us. They reveal more about their inner character than our own. When dealing with envious individuals, it's not about confrontation or changing them. It's about clarity, recognizing their behavior for what it is, not an assessment of your worth, but a mirror of their struggle. You protect your peace by staying grounded in your values and by being mindful of what you share and with whom. Let your success speak softly, but carry the weight of authenticity. And never let someone's silent bitterness convince you to dim the very light you've worked so hard to ignite. Thank you for walking beside me through this eye-opening journey. If you've ever felt drained, disappointed, or quietly broken by the people you let close, know this: you're not alone. And more importantly, you're not powerless. Life is too short and your peace too precious to be handed over to those who don't deserve it. These 9 types of people. They're not here to teach us just about them. They're mirrors, helping us see what we value, what we tolerate, and where we must draw the line. Stoicism reminds us, we don't control others, we only control how we respond. So respond with clarity, with boundaries, with love, but not at the expense of your dignity. You have the right to choose relationships that nourish your soul, not just fill your calendar. This isn't about being cold or judgmental. It's about protecting the warmth of your spirit for those who truly deserve to share it. If this video resonated with you, if it stirred something inside, I invite you to share your thoughts below. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. And if you found strength in this, imagine what we can build together from here. Please take a moment to subscribe, tap the notification bell, and stay with us on this path of resilience, wisdom, and self-respect. Let's grow stronger, together. One decision, one boundary, one insight at a time. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, protect your peace and keep your light strong.